When you create a free Nextmv account, you get instant access to these sample apps that are already preloaded with data. So that means you can just dive right in and start exploring a fully functional app with Nextmv. So let's take a quick look at one of these sample apps. So the farm share routing app is obviously for a routing use case, and it is creating routes for produce pickup and delivery. So let's look at this one. When we click on it, we are landed on this details page here. The ID, description, and default instance. So let's take a quick look at instances. So instances point to a version of your model, and the two we've created here as an example are production and staging. But of course, you can create these to represent whatever you'd like. So perhaps you'd like to do that by region, like the Northeast or the Midwest, or really for any other type of management scenario that you have. And you can see here that each instance points to a version. So let's take a look at the versions. Here we have a few different examples of how you can name and use versions. So we have kind of a classic numbered version scenario with 3.5 and 4.0, or you may want to use the naming to include things like constraints that you're using or other variables that you're testing out. So now let's take a look at run history. The run history has a table that includes all of the runs that have been made with this app. So we have the run ID here, we have custom names so you can easily search by a name that you've created, we can filter by date, we can look at the instance ID, version ID, and of course the status. So let's look at one run specifically. So we can see here that we've named it 12 vans, 100 pickups, so it's very specific to the exact run. We can see the routes on the map here, the vehicles that were used, as well as the output directly here. And if we look at the top, we have a details view, which includes information like the run duration, output size, and if there were any errors, etc. And we can also see the input that was used for this exact run. So if you're investigating something and you want to see the input file that was used, here's how you can find that very quickly. So let's go back to the app and let's look at experiments. And we can see here that we already have a batch experiment created, which is comparing two different instances. So we have production and staging, which were associated with v3.5 and v4. What does adding service times do to our output metrics? So let's take a look at what we found. So looking at the solution value, it looks like we have a pretty big jump from production to staging. So our value's gone up, and we probably want to look at what might be causing this. So we've actually added some custom metrics, and the one we'll look at now is number of unassigned stops. So the number of unassigned stops in production with our model that does not have service times is 0. And our staging model, which does have service times, it looks like we now have over 5 unassigned stops as the mean. So certainly something we want to look into and probably take some action on based on this information. Okay, and lastly, let's look at the API reference page. This page displays the custom API endpoint that is specific to the farm share routing app. So when you create your app with Nextmv, you will have a page exactly like this, and this is how you can access your custom app remotely.